Hello, my dear viewers. I'm Olga Demchuk, a researcher of the inner world of the personality. Today I want to talk to you about being better and worse. How does this mechanism arise, and why is it so important for us to compare ourselves to others? I am always better. I am always better. Well, if I'm not better right now, then I could be better. I could have done better. I could have looked better. I used to do better before. This is not the best thing I could have said or done. You see how much of this better is here, which does not agree with reality. There is a hypothetical better. And the fact that right now it's not the best means it's worse. That is, it always seems like I could do better. I can endlessly fantasize about how much better I could be. To look better, to be smarter, to earn more, and so on and so on and so on. This is all fantasy. The ideal me, this model of betterness, is entirely under our control. It depends on my mood, on my logic, on whatever I imagine about myself. How much better I can be than I am right now. And this complete control prevents a person from being critical, logical, or objective. It also allows them to devalue what they already have, what exists in reality, as if this option always exists. Me, but better? What does me, but better actually mean? The prototype of the ideal self appears in us while we're still in the womb. Why is it that we look for the ideal self there, of all places? Because there was no dissatisfaction. There was happiness and there was contentment with both the world and oneself. So the ideal self is when I am satisfied with the world and satisfied with myself. Well, I can be satisfied with the world as long as it gives me something. The world itself doesn't interest me. It only interests me as a source of benefits for myself. And this state is completely normal for a child. A child is a consumer. A child cannot produce any benefits. A child is dependent. They like this and they will be given what they want. And this truly is the profound illusion, the captivating illusion of the perfect ideal. This overwhelming sense of complete and utter satisfaction, of total and absolute happiness, as if it perpetually prevents me from genuinely finding peace and true contentment in the present reality where I am right now at this very moment. It's as if I always feel inferior compared to that version of myself who is better, who could have done more, who wouldn't have made those mistakes, who would have gotten what she wanted. But this is not it. It's not the same. This kind of comparison we will carry into our relationships with other people. If we truly don't break out of this destructive cycle, we are completely unable to genuinely perceive another individual as someone who truly exists independently and separately from ourselves. This person is now connected to me. I have brought them into my inner world, and without even noticing, I begin to compare them to myself. Some people say I compare myself to everyone. No. It's not that I compare myself to everyone, but rather that I compare them to myself. This slight shift in emphasis completely changes the meaning of the phrase, and then it reveals its true sense to us. Look, I compare myself to everyone. Here I am like a victim, comparing myself to other people. And here it's as if we overlook this egocentrism, this self-absorption, this living in a world centered around oneself. But when I say I compare everyone to myself, I am the constant reference point. I remain, and I compare everyone else to myself. And here we have the opportunity to sense this egocentrism. When another person cannot be perceived as someone different, as someone who carries some information about me. So let's connect what I just said. We have a phantom, an option of I'm better, and we've definitely experienced this. In the womb, we once experienced contentment. Our ideal self It doesn't seem ephemeral to us, invented or impossible. We have emotionally experienced this complete and utter satisfaction. And our ideal self is not merely about possessing certain material objects, specific people, or a particular status in life. It is much more profound than that. It's about a state, about experiencing an emotional condition, and we seek it, trying to understand how, with the help of something external, to immerse ourselves in this state of happiness. We are searching for an emotion, but it seems to us that we are searching for objects. The ideal self we strive for so that we can find peace there. And then another individual person slowly comes into our immediate field of vision. Another person not perceived by me as existing independently. I automatically begin to compare them to myself. This sounds similar to biblical words. I am the measure of all things. I perceive this entire world, this vast and intricate reality, only in my own image and likeness. In other words, another person, like another universe, is not conceived as such. I conceive of them in my own image and likeness. The pieces I have, from them I assemble an image. And I absolutely have to find out who is better and who is worse. Because if he is indeed better, then I truly believe that and if he is worse, then I am indeed much better. Our animal side is always striving for the top position, for dominance, for this sense of being the best. When we are in this state of being the best, then, towards someone who is in a worse position, we can even be quite benevolent and understanding. You have to agree, it's much, much easier to be truly humane and genuinely kind to someone who is clearly worse off. And to truly feel deep pity, to genuinely show care, even to a beloved spouse who is seriously ill, it is indeed much easier to demonstrate that profound care and compassion. Because of inherent weakness, it effectively blocks this. It is our fundamental animal desire to be better. We then assign this particular person as being worse and can subsequently allow ourselves to be weak, to be truly kind. But if someone is better than us, what kind of kindness can we show them? It's not my reproach, it's a symbol of my own inferiority. When we perceive another person from our own personal egocentrism, we often make assumptions. This sense of being better or worse is one of the accompanying processes. There is also the process of needing to see ourselves reflected in the other person in the way we would like to be. When we talk about this dichotomy, about this ideal, the I that is better and ideal, when it comes to the real self, we don't want to associate ourselves with it. Of course, it's easier to root for the winning team, for those who are better. I don't associate myself with the real self. That self is worse, and I have rejected it. And when I reject it, I am left homeless and without any support from myself. I actually associate myself with a phantom, with an invented, ephemeral cloud of fantasy about myself. And that's why I'm vitally dependent on the validation of this cloud. I become very dependent on how I am perceived, because I can't rely on my real self. My real self is worse. I associate myself with what is better. That which is better, it is changeable and unstable. And in order not to lose this association with my better self, I have to do everything so that other people reflect me as this better version, because otherwise I would have to fall into a sense of inferiority, even though in reality it would just mean returning to my real self. So even the better state, the real I, is insignificance, inferiority, something repulsive. This is exactly where toxic shame comes from. I am ashamed of my real self because in the eyes of others, I am supposed to be perfect. And this slavish, indeed almost complete dependence on how others truly perceive you, this constant external validation, forces a person to constantly pretend, to subtly manipulate situations, to feign goodwill and genuine intentions, just to meticulously adjust the settings of the metaphorical mirror I have carefully chosen to accurately reflect me. In other words, I do not possess genuine goodwill. I am merely acting it out, pretending to be benevolent. I act out something that is socially acceptable, so that the mirror reflecting me clearly shows me as someone, a person perhaps, as someone I can truly be, someone I genuinely like, and that is my very best, ultimate, ideal self. Yeah. Undoubtedly, social interactions do require goodwill. But I truly want to draw your careful attention to these particular mechanisms, because then it becomes abundantly clear to all of us why we can't just leave all these people alone, why we feel the need to compare, why it's so important for us to determine whether we are better or worse. This issue of better or worse will manifest itself in the inability to be together as equals. As a result, all people will be divided into two categories, better or worse. Even the same person can sometimes be better, sometimes worse, depending on changing circumstances. So, in fact, my internal relationships are built on this foundation, on this very idea of better or worse. I look at the real and I see it as the worse option. And then with another person, I need to figure out which of us is the ideal one and which is the real one. Well, the ideal is the one who is better. And the real, which we consider insignificant, is the one that is worse. Who is the main one in the relationship? Whose tune are we going to dance to? Because inside, a person is dancing to the tune of their ideal image, the very one in which they are better. And this is a state of a constant perpetual oscillation between profound arrogance and deep humiliation. So in actual fact, a person can indeed be either commanding, truly dominant, clearly instructing, or thoughtfully giving advice. Someone who presses their lips together, devalues and observes. Yes, yes, yes. Or you smile and think, my God, what a miserable person. I feel sorry for you, that's what people say. Or a person falls into a state of deep humiliation and utter servility. So until a person evolves to a state where they let go of this idealized self, associate themselves with the real one, where they rely on objectivity and reality, where they give up a world in which everything else is perceived only in their own image and likeness, where the I is the measure of all things. Until a person goes through this evolutionary stage, it's as if they're cursed. They are constantly caught in this better or worse dynamic, and an enormous amount of energy is spent maintaining these essentially meaningless processes. It's even impossible to learn here because anyone who is better immediately makes me feel worse. I attack myself. I simply can't even hear what the other person is saying. Or when I participate in a discussion, I can't be specific, attentive, or appropriate because I'm thinking about how to impress and be better. This constant desire to be better than I actually am, a constant dependence on how I'm perceived. It's as if I don't leave other people any choice in how to perceive me or how to treat me. It's as if I want to impose a certain perception of myself on them. I want to force them to reflect me in a certain way. I want to have power over this mirror because inside me there is emptiness. This is exactly where imposter syndrome comes from. It's when a person associates themselves with an ideal, empty image. The I with this ephemeral, non-existent shell, while the real I doesn't pay attention. For what? It's worse. Why invest effort there? It is important to know all these mechanisms within yourself. When you understand them, you no longer perceive them as the voice of God. Because if we don't know the history of the evolution of our personality, we don't understand what is inherent in us, what we definitely have, why this is happening, then we perceive that this is the only way it can be, as if, like we have now, we cannot get out from under power, we have no freedom of choice. And recognizing these processes, understanding these processes, creates a crossroads where we make a choice. Either to get carried away with this better or worse, with these self-aggressions, and so on and so forth. Into envy, into hatred, into competition where you have to be better. Or to direct your attention to something constructive and creative. Because if the personality does not evolve, it is constantly playing with dolls, acting out some invented performance, in which it constantly pretends, diligently tries to prove something, meticulously compares, deeply envies, intensely hates, fiercely fights, instead of truly being creative and genuinely developing its full potential. That's how it is. I would like to ask you to write in the comments to describe your own experience of comparison of I am better or worse. The criteria of being better that truly weigh heavily on you when you constantly compare yourself to others. And then try to thoughtfully write about this better imagined version of yourself, the one you genuinely think is significantly better than who you are right now. Try to look at your real self. Through the eyes of this better self and you will understand everything about feelings of inadequacy. And you will see the endless need to devalue others, to look for their flaws, to collect mental dirt on them in your mind. And you will understand why, in that case, personal growth is blocked. I'm wrapping up this video and inviting you to join us on this channel. This is our home school of communication. We will uncover the secrets that arise in the moment of contact. Here we learn to discover and understand our inner world. Thank you for joining me on this interesting journey and for helping each other by commenting on the video. Don't forget about tolerance and acceptance. This is important for us. It won't be like the other schools, but sometimes it's difficult. Why? Because it is very energy consuming. Because you have to be truly honest. I know how difficult it is when you feel so exposed, practically naked, but I believe in you. So if you'd like to join, please do. Soon this year, we're going to hold the School of Communication. Later, I'll tell you what will be covered in those lectures. I say goodbye to you now. See you soon.